Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? I am Dwayne Shigg, and welcome to Talk About It. We thank you for being with us. We have been dealing with a particular subject on our past three shows, and tonight is no exception. And I trust if you would like to view the other shows, you can go to YouTube, Talk About It with Dwayne Shigg. We had a conversation about mental health. We talked about mental health and ministry, and we talked about mental health and men. And tonight we're talking about help for your mental health. And I am very blessed and happy to have as our guests tonight two powerful young ladies, counselors, therapists, and they happen to be biological sisters also. And so we're going to have a great time tonight, a helpful time, a productive time. Miss Flora Harris, how are you tonight?
I'm quite well, Dr. Shiggs. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. If you could just give a quick introduction of yourself to the people before we go to your sister and we jump into our conversation.
Sure. I'm Flora Harris. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am in private practice. I've been practicing now for about 15 years. I work mostly with couples, but I do see individuals. Children is just not my thing. That's not my jam. But I do enjoy my work immensely, and I love what I do, and I love helping people. And more than anything, I like having people come to me and knowing that they can trust me.
I like that. All right. And our next guest, our other guest, is a certified grief recovery specialist, as well as many other things, Miss Alice McLean. How are you today?
Hi, Dr. Shiggs. My name is Alice McLean, and thank you for having me on your show. I'm a certified grief recovery specialist, and I love it. And I prefer to do one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, we are going to have a great time, and my focus. Those of you who have seen my show before, follow me. Those that know me, I focus on not just what's wrong. Okay, what are we going to do about it? And so I'm thankful for these ladies for being here on our show tonight. And I'm not very diplomatic, and so what I do, I just like to jump into the deep end. Okay, so our focus is to have a conversation, but to help people as we deal with it. Question for Ms. Harris and then also Ms. McLean. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about specifically stress, trauma, and excuse me, grief. And so how do you differentiate? Well, let me say it this way. Is there such a thing as, like with cholesterol, there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Is there such thing as good stress or normal stress? Because, depending on what you do, life is stressful. And so how do you differentiate from just the regular stress of life and the stress that can push you towards a mental health problem? I know it's a long question, but I'm trying to say it how I mean it.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I mean, I never really thought about good stress, but then, in hindsight, when I'm thinking about it, it's when you are experiencing excitement.
Okay.
How, Christmas is coming. You don't know if your wife or significant other is going to love the gift. And so you're feeling a little anxious about that. Stress is really about fear. It's all about fear. And how you manage that fear will make the difference of how you get through the stressful event. So when you think about the flight, fight, or fear syndrome, like you're being chased, right? You can either turn around, it's fight, flight, or freeze. You can even turn around and you're going to fight them, or you're going to just keep running, or you're going to freeze and you're just not going to do anything. In those moments, all of your chest is pounding, there's pain, there's deep breathing, there's excessive blood pressure running through your veins. There's a collection of exhaustion, your heart rate goes up, all of your vital signs are escalated. And so you can't think during those periods. So if you think about a person who remains in that state for excessive amounts of time with all of that adrenaline going through their system, and they get to a place where they don't know how to make choices. They don't know how to make decisions. They can't get out of that stressful, fearful state of mind. And then it could move into psychosis. And
Wow.
so it is very important that a person who's experiencing excessive amount of stress to seek help, to help them mitigate those feelings, learn skills to manage the stress, to reduce the level of impact that it's having on their biological system.
Okay.
So I use a lot of mindfulness skills. Mindfulness, deep breathing, mindfulness meditation, mindfulness grounding, and it's geared to help a person sit still and be in the moment. Mindfulness is being mindful of what you're doing in the moment, the breathing, to focus on the breathing, on your belly going up and down, to ground yourself, to focus where your feet are, your hands are, your head, where your head is lying. Meditation, to think only about positive things, something that's very positive, or to just focus on one thing.
Okay.
But it helps move you out of that state of stress into a state of calm.
Okay. So normal stress, the example you gave, Ms. McLean. So normal stress, when does it move? Or I don't know if this is too vague or ambiguous of a question. How do you know it's moved from just the normal stress of excitement, or I've got a speech, or I've got a book signing, when it's moved from there to being a possible fuel for a mental health problem or issue? Is there a way that, is there a line, or how do I know I need help? It's just normal stress.
Okay, first I want to say I agree with Flora with all the things that she said. And I wanted to add some more to that. It's like marriage, or having a baby, or having, a roller coaster, getting on the roller coaster for the first time. All of these things are good stress because you get excited about these things.
Right.
I wanted to say that, and when there's bad stress, when you know that it is moved from good to bad, you're not able to sleep. You're restless. You might find yourself crying, you can't talk. You don't want to talk about it, you overeat. You just become withdrawn. These are things that when these things start to happen and you're not able to express yourself, then my stress has gone from a good stress to a bad stress and I need some help. But usually what happens is a person doesn't have anybody to talk to. So the stress gets worse. And then now you're going to let it get, after it get worse and you don't have anybody to talk to, now you're going to have a mental health issue and you're going to have to go see somebody like Flora, a mental health therapist, and you're going to get a diagnosis from your stress. So
when that normal stress moves to a point where it inhibits, I'm trying to repeat, see if I understood what you're saying. So when that normal stress moves to a point where it's constricting, it keeps you from doing some quote unquote normal things, when it becomes problematic, then that is the point. This is a question. That is the point where it's moving into a mental health issue as opposed to just normal life stress. Is that correct? Would that be a correct way of looking at it based on what you told me?
Yes, but I also think that depending on what the situation is, you could come see a counselor and talk about it and work your way through it. But sometimes the issue is so big that you need to see a therapist because you might need medication for your problem.
Okay. And then if it's just a normal stress that, you're going through life with, you may not necessarily need to go see a counselor. You just need to do some mindfulness or talk to your husband or your wife or go take a run or take a jog. If it's not to the point where it's causing you difficulty and keeping you from doing things. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and what you're talking about is interfering with your daily functioning.
Okay, yes.
Once stress gets to a place where it interferes with your daily functioning, then it can start turning into something else. That is more severe, like a depression or anxiety. Yeah. And so
Okay.
once you get to a place where you have anxiety, and your anxiety can go from, 5% up to 500%. And
Wow.
that's a time when you need medication to help you with managing your anxiety.
Okay. Okay. Now, I read a stat that said something like 1 in 5 Americans have mental health problems. Not just dealing with mental health, just a normal mental health, but mental health issues, mental health problems, and moving into mental illness. And I learned a couple of weeks ago that there is a difference between mental health and mental illness. But this particular stat said 1 in 5 people in America are dealing with mental health, excuse me, issues or mental health illnesses. I'll start with Ms. McLean. Why do you, from a professional perspective, why do you think that number is what it is? And is that a high or difficult number? I mean, is that a?
I'm not sure about the statistics. However, I do think that people are afraid to go to therapy. They're afraid of the stigma. If you go to therapy, that you must be crazy. So a lot of times people don't go.
Yeah.
But not only do they not go to therapy, they won't even come to counseling. So I do think that there are a lot of people that are walking around with a lot of issues that may not be as bad as they think they are. And all they need to do is seek professional help.
Okay. Ms. Harris, anything to add to that? Same question, that number being what it is, why do you think it is that big of a number? 26%. It may or may not be big.
I think that number is pretty low.
Oh, okay. I must have read an old stat.
I haven't read that statistic, but I do feel like it's pretty low. And,
Okay.
and just like Alice said, especially among our population, the African American population, don't trust allowing their stuff to be in the hands of another person. They feel like they can manage it themselves.
Okay.
But when I'm working with people and I'm listening, and then I paraphrase what they're saying to me, and I add on, and then I hear, "Oh, I never thought of it that way. Oh, I never saw it like that."
Wow.
Because they have no other way to see it other than being stuck in the place where they are, and literally stuck.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just have to keep digging to help them gain a new perspective. And let me tell you something, insight makes all the difference. Insight creates change. If you have no insight, you can't create change. There's no way for you to go if you don't have a place to go.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And so help me and the viewers understand the difference between, because I hear you all talking, maybe they need to go to a counselor, maybe they need therapy. What is the difference? Excuse me.
Okay, I'll tell you, grief recovery. Grief is a normal and natural response to any loss that you deem significant. And recovery is forgiveness. Recovery is finding a reason for living. Recovery is taking control of the circumstances before the circumstances take control of you. Okay. And mental health is like your mind and your emotions. But for me, I think that mental health is more about the mind and not so much about the emotions.
Okay.
And a lot of times people doesn't want the stigma of going to a therapist because they don't want the diagnosis. So hopefully they'll come and get counseling so that they can see if they really need to see a mental health therapist.
So, Ms. Harris, you could expound on that. The difference between a counselor and a therapist primarily how they deal with what you're dealing with. One through, dealing with your emotions, and the other one through, psychologically. Is that the basic difference between counseling and therapy? Because therapy sounds scarier than counseling. Therapy sounds like something wrong with you. You broke your arm, or my wife, she had a stroke years ago, so she had to go to therapy. But when we're talking about mental health, counseling doesn't sound as scary as therapist. So is that just the only difference, that, one is dealing with your emotions and others are dealing with your mind?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead, Flora.
No, I'd like to say this first. Therapists are licensed and they are governed by the Bureau of Behavioral Sciences. And so we hold a responsibility for confidentiality, ethical values, and operating through the guidelines as set forth by the Bureau of Behavioral Sciences, the BBS.
Okay.
And so I think for counselors, because they are not, they don't hold that level of responsibility, they are freer. They have a lot more latitude to work with the client and their families, and they don't have to hold that level of confidentiality because they're not governed to do so. So for me, as a licensed practitioner, I think that if a client comes to me and then they want to bring in their family later on, I have a responsibility that I'm being held to by the Bureau of Behavioral Sciences to maintain a client's confidentiality. Now, Alice, you can chime in anytime, because I don't know if a counselor hold that level of confidentiality for a client.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, we do.
You do.
And we constantly have to remind our clients that what we talk about is confidential.
Okay.
You know, and if you don't repeat that over and over again, they'll hold back on the conversation. But when you let them know that what we talk about is confidential, they get a whole lot more relaxed. Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the basic, so it's in terms of responsibility, the same responsibility is there, and so and the difference is basically what you deal with. So the idea that one is scarier than the other one, that's just a Dwayne problem, right? That's just my issue.
Yeah. Well, another thing is too, as a counselor in grief recovery, there's only 8 sessions, whereas if you were taking mental health therapies, you might go on and on.
Right.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because I have clients that I've been working with for several years, and there is no limitation on when they need to be complete.
So how do you know when they're cured, when it's finished? How do you know when that is? Or is there such a thing?
And well, in grief recovery, we have techniques and we have sessions, and it's planned out. So you have 8 sessions. And at the end of these 8 sessions, you should be able to participate in the next relationship that you're in 100%, because we taught you techniques how to deal with your problem.
Okay. So it's not just talking. So you're giving steps for me to do. We're not just talking for me to vent. So you're giving me something to do when I leave here, when I leave your office.
Exactly. But I also want you to talk as well.
Right. Okay. Good. Very good.
So, and whereas with me as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I deal with individuals who are dealing with a lot of times severe and persistent mental illness. So we're talking about major depressive disorder, and some people experience depression for a lifetime, you know, and they may go down to dysthymia, which is some low grade depression that they have for, you know, their lifespan, or they may go into a cycle of depression, which is called cyclothymia. So they'll be good for a month or two, and then they cycle into a depression. And so they need to be able to talk to the therapist, like, I'm feeling bad this week. I woke up crying. I haven't been able to, you know, so now they're cycling. And so, you know, for me, when I'm working with clients that I've identified with cyclothymia, I make sure that they are aware of the fact that they cycle in and out of depression, and that is going to pass. But when you're dealing with someone with major depressive disorder, you know, they can't get out of bed. They cry, they don't bathe, they isolate, they're in the dark. You know, their quality of life has plummeted, you know, down to almost no interaction with people. And this is a very serious problem that you can't put a time frame on when this will move out of this particular state of being.
Right.
And the same thing with anxiety. People who have anxiety, it just doesn't go away. You know, they have anxiety forever.
Okay.
Some people learn how to manage it, but others need medication. And so with the medication, you give them talk therapy, so they live in this state of fear.
So sometimes it's not a question of curing, it's a question of managing sometimes.
It's a question of managing.
Okay.
And I want to add to that, Doctor. With grief recovery, it can be about, it's not just about death. It can be a divorce. It can be
That's a good question. Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, it can be about an empty nest. It can be about recovery. It can be about moving from place to place. It can be about anything that causes you emotional pain. So we teach you techniques how to deal with the pain. And like I said to you earlier, if it's something that's more severe and I feel like this person needs a mental health therapist, then I'll tell that person, I need to give you a referral, because talking and working through this is not going to be enough for you.
And so some of it is just normal. And then your techniques, when they come to see you, either Ms. McLean or Mrs. Harris, what you give them is something that they can use so it doesn't become a mental health problem. Would that be accurate to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. I want to ask a question because I want to talk tonight. I want to talk here about stress, grief, and trauma. And what is trauma? What is that what is it as a definition? Then I want to apply it to mental health, since that's what we're talking about. But what is trauma? Because I hear it all the time. You hear a trauma unit, you hear he's suffering from trauma, and sometimes that can be a very ambiguous thing. So just in a practical, my mentor, Dr. Scott, used to always say you want to speak so it would be portable. So in a portable way, what is trauma?
Okay. Let me give you an example, and then Flora can wrap it up because she works in that field, okay?
Okay.
All right. So for me, when I had trauma, it was when something drastic happened in my life, when my ex-husband was killed, right? And right away, I got married again. And I got married without dealing with the trauma. And hurting people hurt people. And, you go into the shower every night crying because you have this trauma that you don't know how to deal with. And being religious, you think I gave it to God. And then in your culture, it's like you can't talk about it because people will say, you must be crazy, if you think that you need a therapist. So, we have to become spiritual and know that you can take it to God, and then he'll lead you to the right people that are able to help you.
So you can talk to Jesus and a therapist, right?
Yes. You need them both.
Okay.
Yes, right. To get well.
Okay. I like that. So go ahead. So when something drastic happens, Ms. Harris, help us.
Well, so
trauma.
In a layman's term, trauma is an unhealthy response to an event that caused you to spiral out of control. Mm-hmm. Unhealthy response to an event that caused you to spiral out of control. And so that doesn't mean that you could have fell down the steps. Mm-hmm. And every time you see steps now, you could be traumatized.
So let me ask a question for clarity. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So trauma is trauma in reference to the thing that happened or my response to it, or both?
It could be both, but mostly your response to it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because I could fall down the stairs and it won't traumatize me. I'll go to the next stairs. But you get someone else who lives in fear, and their response to falling down the stairs is, oh my God, I can never go. I won't go near stairs. I won't go up an elevator. I got stuck in it one time. Mm-hmm. And so now they see an elevator and they freak out. Or,
wow.
I was in a car accident and I can't ride in the car anymore because, I had an accident in 10 years and I can't ride in the car.
Okay.
So it's an unhealthy response to an event that caused you a great deal of distress.
Right.
Whoa,
now, of course, there's always those big events like being beaten or raped or, someone pulled a gun on you or, there's also those big events.
Right. Right.
But then there's also just little simple things that people just, they internalize, as a huge event because they live in a state of fear anyways. Trauma is fear related.
So how does the regular person, when they have an experience, they fell down the stairs, asked a girl to the prom, she said no, one of my biggest things, I was speaking in front of 300-400 people and I just totally went into the toilet. For a speaker, that's traumatic. And so that's trauma, that's traumatic. Or, some people, okay, I messed up, make up, move over. So how do you get to the point where you can say, okay, I fell down the stairs. Okay, I'm a big boy. I wipe my hands off, my knee off, and keep on going. Is that based on how I am internally, or my daddy told me big boys don't cry, or what is that based on, the fact that I can get up, but the other guy can't? Or is that depending on who the individual is?
Well, yeah, it just depends on who you are and,
Okay.
your level of strength, and, a lot of factors play into one person's ability to get past a situation versus another person's ability. But if you're able to see the trauma, we do what's called exposure therapy. And so, it's called trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, because it's all cognition. It's all up in your head. It's all, right? And so if you can get them to process what happened to them in a way that they can understand it and contextualize it so that it no longer causes them any fear or distress, they're able to get past it. So it works for some people and it doesn't work for others, but it's catch as catch can.
Okay.
And a lot of time it is what we taught. If we're taught certain things, and then we respond to the things that we're taught. Not that our parents meant to hurt us, is that they didn't know any better, and like you said, big boys don't cry, and we're taught that big girls don't cry, or we're taught, I'll give you a cookie and you eat, and we learn these different things from our parents that are not necessarily good.
And when I learned that from my parents, big boys don't cry. So when I get to the point where I messed up big time and I want to cry, how do I get to the point where it's okay for me to cry? Do I have to come see somebody and they tell me it's okay for me to cry?
If you don't know, yes. Because if you came to me, I would tell you that it's okay for you to cry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I would tell you that it's not okay for you to isolate. And I would tell you that it's not the best idea to have a cookie just because you scratched your knee.
Because sometimes I might scratch my knee because I want a cookie.
Well, you gotta if you scratch your knee because you want it,
I'm gonna have some banged up knees and I'm gonna get fat.
No, exactly. You're gonna learn that every time something happens, I need to eat. So you have to be careful with those little things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or go to your room if you're gonna cry. Now you've learned to isolate. When something goes wrong in my life, I'm gonna run to my room.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that.
Yeah.
We do that. So if I'm in my room and you don't know I'm crying, I can't get no help.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, our childhood conditioning definitely guides our adult life decisions.
Yes.
So we have to, so this conversation is going to help somebody understand that when your daddy told you big boys don't cry, he didn't mean any harm. He just didn't know any better.
Exactly.
So
that's probably what his dad told him.
Exactly.
That's what he knew. That's all he knew.
Right. So when you learn that it's okay for big boys to cry, as long as you're not being overly wimpy, but it's okay for big boys to cry, I'm not going to have a problem with my father. Man, you told me this and it's messed me up for all my life. I'm not going to have a problem with him because I found out he didn't know any better. He didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't personal.
And you forgive him.
So we probably got some people right now who are dealing with some things. Okay, I'm going to interrupt myself. Could that be considered? I found out that it's okay for big boys to cry. My daddy told me they shouldn't. can that be considered a traumatic traumatic event? Because now I don't trust my daddy. What else did he tell me that wasn't true? He did it on purpose. He didn't want me.
I think that whatever may have happened that to cause him to tell you that may be a tragic event.
Oh, okay. Wow. Woo! Mental health. If you just joined us, this is Talk About It. I'm Dwayne Shigg, and we've got these young ladies who are helping. I'm getting help. I don't know about you, so I'm hoping you're getting some help also. Flora Harris, licensed marriage family therapist, and Miss Alice McLean, certified grief recovery specialist, and they happen to be biological sisters also. And so we thank them for being here with us. We're talking about stress, trauma, and grief as it relates to mental health. And I believe we've answered, we might have dealt with this, but I want to touch on it again. Stress, just regular stress of life. What do you do so it doesn't become a problem? That's when you go into the mindfulness and other things like that, or you go talk to somebody. That's basically how you would deal with it before it becomes a mental health problem. Because every time you have stress, it's not a mental health problem.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, Flora.
Go ahead.
Okay. There's other things that you can do other than going to a therapist or to a counselor. You can go to the gym. You can work out. You just don't overwork out. You can watch TV. You just don't watch too much TV. The problem is that people have fantasies. They over watch too much TV. They have too much sex, or they do too much gym. They overdo it. But there are things that you can do to help you relieve stress so that you don't have to go. That you don't need a therapist. You don't need a therapist just because there's stress. You can manage it yourself.
You can manage it. But once it gets to a problem, on our first show, when a conversation on mental health, watch this shameless plug. If you didn't get a chance to see it, go to YouTube, talk about it with Dwayne Shigg. We had a young man on there named Raymond Forte. He wrote a book about dealing with his own mental health issues. And as you said, Ms. McLean, his way of dealing with the unresolved trauma was to be promiscuous. That's how, that was his coping mechanism. Wow. But, that didn't really help in terms of what the trauma was and those different things. Were you getting ready to say something, Ms. Harris?
Well, no, I was just thinking that, there's healthy ways of dealing with stress, and then there's unhealthy ways. And, a lot of the healthy ways is what Alice just mentioned, taking care of yourself, recognizing the fact that you are stressed, that you're dealing with stress, and then taking appropriate action, like going for a walk, for a jog, exercising, calling to talk to a good friend of someone that you can trust. Taking a hot bath, soaking in the tub, all of these things are self-care mechanisms that you can do will help mitigate, stress and bring you back down to a place, your baseline. But then people who engage in unhealthy methods of dealing with stress, such as substance use.
Okay.
And like Alice just mentioned, too much sex, overdoing anything, racing their cars, or, engaging in dangerous behavior just so that they can relieve themselves and think about something else. Those are really unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. And then you just want to think about ways that you can deal with your stress that's going to be productive and move you to the next level so that you can think through your problems and come up with solutions.
Oh, I love that. So handling my stress level, my grief, my trauma, handling it in a way that's going to help me be productive and not fall apart and not get further, lost in whatever happened to me 15 years ago when, Pookie stole my bike and now I can't, whatever the case may be. Okay, good. And when I was younger, I was at the local market near my house, and had it not been handled correctly, I guess this could have been a traumatic. I had an icy, and this guy came out, and I bumped into him, and it spilled on him, and then he slapped me. So that could have caused me to be, fearful of people making mistakes. But then my big brother was there, and so he told me to go home. Now I don't know what he did to that guy, but That was relief enough for me. So I don't have a fear of ICs anymore because of my big brother. But seriously, something like that could turn into a traumatic experience, basically. Would that be correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I want to ask this for the leaders, the parents, pastors. What would you say? I want to start with Ms. Harris, and then, from your perspective, and then Ms. McLean from your perspective. Leaders take on other people's issues. Pastors, doctors, counselors, and therapists. They've got their own stress and different things that deal with, in their own lives. But what would you say to a leader in whatever area, someone that takes on other people's problems? What would you say to them so that they would not let that become a mental health issue for them?
Right. Well, self-care is very important, and burnout is real.
Wow.
Yeah, burnout is real. And when you're feeling burnout, you may as well just be one of the people that you're trying to help. You can't help other people if you don't have the capacity to help them. So you're not taking care of yourself. You're going home feeling that you can't get out of bed the next day because it's too hard, because you've taken on somebody else's stress. You can't cook dinner for your family because you're just overwhelmed with all the work you've done today looking after other people. You can't pay your bills on time because you're overburdened with other people's burdens. So this is real. This is called burnout. Mm-hmm. This is when you need to take some time and just disengage from everything. Just cut it all off. Go take care of you for a few days, refresh, reboot, and then come back. That is so important for even us, for us therapists, for
I was going to ask you that.
Alice, who is a grief recovery therapist. She's hearing all kinds of things. I mean, grief covers a vast majority of a lot of things that happen in our lives. Right. And if you're taking that stuff on and you don't know how to mitigate that internally, you could experience burnout. And a lot of therapists do. A lot of therapists experience burnout. So you really do need to just disengage, take a couple of days off, and just take care of yourself. Self-care is important in this work. And that's for anyone who's doing this work. Self-care is important.
Ms. McLean, you can answer, but also I want to add this in there in your answer. Help somebody understand that self-care is not being selfish, because a lot of times, I can't because I got to take care of my mother. I got to take care of my wife. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that. I told someone last week when my wife had her stroke, I was, obviously doing what I'm supposed to do to take care of her. It wasn't I wasn't expecting no medal. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as her husband. But then there was a time when people would be asking him, how's Cheryl doing? And, she's doing all right. But then in the back of my mind, I'm saying, how come nobody's asking me how I'm doing?
Exactly.
And then I felt guilty for thinking that question, So help somebody understand, what do leaders do? What do people that are taking care of other people do so that they won't get burned out? But also help us understand that self-care is not selfish.
First, I want to say that, like I said earlier, hurting people hurt people. And we have to understand that we can't fix everything and everybody. There are some people going to come to you with some issues that you can't deal with, and you have to know what you can deal with and what you can't, and refer that person to somebody else.
But I'm the pastor. I'm the husband. I'm supposed to be able to fix it.
That's fine. Maybe you should be able to, but you're not always able to.
Okay.
And the therapist and the counselor should always have somebody else that they can confide in. You don't have to tell what the person's name is to talk about the issue.
Okay.
And if it's to your therapist, if something is going on and you need to talk, you should be able to go to somebody else and talk to. A pastor should have another pastor that he can talk to. A therapist should have a therapist. A counselor should have a therapist or a counselor. You should always be able to go to somebody and share all this stuff that somebody else has put on you. Because you can't carry everybody's burden, because then you get stressed out and you need to go somewhere and find out what you have to do for yourself to unwind and take care of yourself.
Right. So,
and that's not being selfish. That's
okay.
taking care of me.
Right. Taking care of me. And you said hurt people. So if I'm taking care of me, I'm in a better position to take care of somebody else.
Yes.
Exactly. Because during the time where, my wife is much better now. But during that time, I had a friend that would tell me, okay, man, sometimes, you just want to call me, hop in the car, we just go take a drive.
I want to add to that.
Yes.
Because people don't know how to deal with grief. So when somebody says, I might say, oh, Flora might say to me, if I lost my husband, Flora might say, how are you? And I might say, oh, I'm hurting. Then Flora might say back to me, he's in a better place. That's intellectual. That's not a good answer. You change the conversation. You want to know how I am, then stick with me. I'm not doing well. Listen to me. What I have to say about me. Don't change the conversation. But because people have not been taught how to deal with grief, then they don't know what to say. We're taught more about CPR than we've taught how to gain things, but we're not taught what to do when we lose it. And because we've been taught what to do when we lose it, people don't know what to say to you. So they change the conversation, and try to put it around and say, I'm good, or they're in a better place, or when one bus comes, another one, when one bus leave, another one to come, or there's more fish in the sea, or, they come up with all kind of intellectuals that are not even important. You're talking about
cliches, basically.
Cliches. Yeah. And so trying to help, but not really knowing how to help. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm at the church I attend, I'm responsible for teaching the ministers when we do different things. And when when we go do visits or we're doing a funeral, sometimes I tell them the best thing is just listen. It's because sometimes people think they have to have an answer.
Yes.
They have to have a response.
Yes.
And you don't have to have a response.
That's right.
And so from the perspective of the leader, the one in charge, I can just go swimming, go riding, because I don't have a response. I don't know what to say to Mrs. Jones who lost her husband or whatever case, but I don't have to know all the time. And
all you have to say to Ms. Jones is my condolence. If you need a friend, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen to you. Or tell Ms. Jones, I'm off tomorrow and I'll be over to take you to lunch, or I'll be over to rake your yard for you. Don't ask her if you can't do it. Tell her I'm available tomorrow and I'll be over this day. And if she is not willing for you to come that day, then you can say, then Ms. Jones, what's a good day for me to come? Because if I'm at work, I can come and help you out like that. And that's where we fail, because we don't make ourselves available to people that are grieving. We'll say something like, if you need me, call me. Because I'm not going to call you.
You're never going to call.
If you just lost your husband or your son or your wife, you're going to need me for something. You're going to need somebody for something. Yeah. If it's not just to listen and let somebody vent.
Yeah, but a lot of times we're not willing to open up and say, I need your help. That's why we have to say to that person, I'm off on Tuesday. I'm free on Tuesday at 12. I'm available to help you that day. Can I come over at 12?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes they just want you to come and sit. Sometimes they just want you to listen to them and not give a comment. Just sit quiet and listen to them.
Right.
That's the biggest problem, because people who think that they want you to talk, they want you to give them a solution. They don't want a solution. They just need to vent. They need to let it go. It's like taking a weight off their shoulder just to be able to talk about their grief, how they're feeling, how sad they are, how deeply painful it is that they've lost their loved one. That's all they need. They just need you to listen.
I learned that. I'll give you a chance, Ms. McLean. I learned that as it relates to marriage. I've been married 39 years. And one of the things when my wife would talk to me, when I teach people about marriage, I teach them oftentimes when men listen to their wives, they're listening for two things: what's wrong and what you want me to do about it. And sometimes we don't know. When I got married, I was young and stupid. So I didn't know. She didn't want me to do nothing about it. Just shut up and listen to me. And so having someone to listen to is very important. Now that's in the context of a marriage relationship, but as you were talking about dealing with grief, that will help also, and to keep it emotional and keep it from going into a psychological issue. Would that be a fair statement?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because our bodies are just like a teapot. When we get all hot and when the teapot get hot and all steamed up, the steam has to come out, right? That's how our bodies are. When we get all filled up with so much pain and so much that's trauma or whatever's going on in our lives, then we end up having heart attacks and strokes or whatever, because we're not willing to go to somebody and talk about the things that are happening in our lives.
To push that release valve.
Release valve.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Grief. People grieve over spouses, over losses. Just a week ago, my uncle passed away, and so we're dealing with that. Grief. People would oftentimes think of grief as it relates to just dealing with a loss of some person passing away, but sometimes it's you didn't get the promotion or whatever the case may be. But is there such a thing of a reasonable time of grieving? Okay, my father died 15 years ago. I got through it, but I'm really not over it, because my daddy was the greatest man I've ever known. And if I talk about him too long, I ain't gonna be able to make it through this conversation. But I'm not grieving, so I'm through it. So my question is there a normal time for grieving? Okay, that was 15 years ago. You still can't get up. You still can't look at his picture without crying. And me and my daddy have the same birthday. And so, you still can't have a birthday without crying and think about him. It's been 15 years, man. Get over it. Is there a reasonable or normal time to be finished grieving?
No, there's not a reasonable time.
Okay.
I think that if you deal with it, that you'll be able, if you seek professional help, then you'll be able to deal with the pain a little bit sooner.
Okay.
But if you get no help at all, it could go on and on and on. Now, like you said, you got past the pain, but you're never going to forget the person.
Right. Oh, no.
Yeah. So, and even if, when I talk, like you said, there are times that I can talk about somebody that I've lost or something that has hurt me. You'll feel that pain that moves up on the inside of you, right? You'll feel those emotions. But when those emotions come up, you have to acknowledge, oh my, I still feel that. And then change your thought to something positive so that you can move on. Okay. And you don't want, sometimes when I'm doing grief recovery and my emotions of my past that something happened comes up, I don't have to talk to that person in front of me. I acknowledge it in my head that I still feel this pain, or I still have these emotions. I still have a special place in my heart for this person, and I'm able to think of something fun that we did together and change my thought and keep talking.
Right. We are going to close this down. Before I do, I want to have each of you take a little bit of time, but I want to say thank you to all those that are watching. One of our viewers, when we were talking about, listening, one of our viewers said, God help us to be mindful of the need to be heard. I like that. And you all were talking about that, how, sometimes people just want you to listen, and just want you to hear them. And that can help people not move into an area where it's a mental health problem. Grief, stress, and trauma, those are all things you deal with, but all of them don't have to be mental health problems. They're, mental health, they're dealing with your mental health because it's emotional and different things of that nature. So as it relates to stress, trauma, grief, and our mental health, I want to ask you just to take a couple of minutes to say something to help those people who are watching and will be watching this. Ms. Harris and then Ms. McLean.
Well, I'd just like people to understand and know that you're not alone in whatever it is that you're suffering with, whatever it is that you're going through. And just know that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Don't take for granted that because you're healthy and something's going on with you stress-wise, or you can't sleep at night, you're restless, things like that, that's okay. It's not okay. Reach out. reach out and just talk to someone, a friend or a professional or someone that you can trust so that they can help you work through whatever it is that you're going through. And know that you're not in this alone. All of us, I mean, I've counseled so many people, and there's a lot of times, like Alice just said, I will hear people talk about their stressors and then I'm identifying with it. I'm like in my head, like, oh my God, that happened to me, or that happened to my family member, or, and I'm feeling whatever it is that they're going through, but I have to stay present to them, present to what's going on with them. So just know you're not in this alone. Always know that you can reach out to someone. There's somebody out there who will listen to you and who will help you.
Powerful. Thank you. Ms. McLean.
Yes, I would like to close with Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek it, and you shall find it. Knock, and the door should be open. If you have a mental health problem, ask God to help you with that problem and lead you to someone that can help you. Seek out the appropriate therapist or counseling for you. And when you go to the therapist sessions, use your sessions wisely. Don't just sit there. Get the help that you need. Use the time wisely. It's yours.
Powerful.
For it.
Yeah. If someone wanted to contact you, how can they reach out to you? Is there a way that they can contact you, Ms. McLean, then Ms. Harris?
Okay. If they want to call me, they can call 951-640-0203, or they can call me, they can email me at alice.mclean@aol.com, or they can go to the Grief Recovery Method and look up Riverside, and they'll find me there.
Okay. Ms.
So
Harris.
I can be reached at F Harris at lapeaceofmind.com. That's an email address where I can be reached, or I can be reached via my phone at 323. Let me give you this other number.
Okay.
310-701-5351. I rarely answer the other phone, so it'll be a message left out there forever.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are the ways you can reach me, either by phone, leave a message, or on email. Email is preferable because I will respond to you on email quicker.
Okay. Ms. Flora Harris, thank you. Ms. Alice McLean, thank you so much. And Ms. Alice, I owe you an apology. When I did the promo the other day, I mispronounced your name. I said Alice McCain. So if someone tells you that man messed up your name, I'm giving you an apology because I hate when people mess up my name. So I'm apologizing to you. Thank you all for being here. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about it. This is our fourth show dealing with mental health. And each of our guests have said what these two experts have said. There is help. Reach out to someone to talk to. You're not alone. Don't make a permanent decision based on a temporary situation. There's numbers you can call. You can, if it's real bad, you can call 911. You can contact these people. You can call somebody. Mental health, and just because you have mental health issues doesn't mean you have mental health illness. You just may need somebody to talk to, but you're worth listening to. So you need to know that somebody's thinking about you, somebody cares about you, and you're worth it. Okay. And mental health, as I said, just because you need to talk to somebody, we want to get rid of the stigma. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean you're 5150. Doesn't mean something's wrong with you. You just have a lot of pressure like a lot of people. So you are worth the conversation. You are worth the call. And I trust that you understand that. Now, thank you for being with us. As I said at the top, if you haven't seen all of our shows on mental health, you can find them on my Facebook page, Your Encouragement. That's MINT. Or you can go to YouTube, Talk About It with Dwayne Shigg. And you can find there. You can also, if you want to find some of my books, you can go to, you can go to Amazon.com. Just put my last name in the top right corner, Shigg. You won't get confused. There's only 3 authors named Shigg on Amazon, me, my brother, and my cousin. So you won't have to worry about getting confused. But thank you so much, ladies. Hold on a moment. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I trust that you were helped today. And I trust that something was said that made a difference. If so, would you just put something in the comment section to let these ladies know that you appreciate them and that you were helped by this conversation. Thank you so much. And as always, I want you to remember, yes, times are tough, but guess what? You are too. Stay encouraged. Be blessed. Hold on, ladies.